Hello little dreamers and welcome back to Storytime with Vicky. Tonight we're going another woodland adventure with Peter Rabbit and his friends. As the moon begins to glow over the sleepy meadow, Peter discovers something very small and very magical. Snuggle up, get nice and cozy, and let's begin tonight's bedtime story. Peter Rabbit and the Whispering Acorn. On a soft and sleepy evening, when the sky was turning lavender and gold, Peter Rabbit was hopping home through the meadow. The grass swayed gently in the cool breeze, the daisies were closing their petals for the night, and the little lanterns on the hedgerow were beginning to glow. Peter adjusted his blue jacket and smiled. "It's a perfect evening for a quiet little walk," he said. Just then, tap, tap, tap. Peter stopped. He looked left. He looked right. Then he looked down. At his feet, nestled in the grass, was the tiniest acorn Peter had ever seen. It was smooth and golden brown, with a little cap that shimmered like polished honey. And then, to Peter's great surprise, the acorn gave a tiny wiggle. Peter blinked. The acorn wiggled again. And in the softest, tiniest voice, it whispered, "Follow the moonbeam." Peter's ears popped up high. "A whispering acorn?" he gasped. He leaned in close. "Did you just speak?" The little acorn gave the tiniest nod. "Follow the moonbeam," it whispered again. Peter looked up. A pale silver moonbeam had slipped through the trees and landed like a glowing ribbon across the meadow path. "Oh," Peter said, his nose twitching with wonder. "This is definitely something Hazel must see." So Peter carefully picked up the little acorn, tucked it safely into his paw, then hurried along the path to find his friends. Before long he reached the old blackberry bush where Hazel the squirrel was doing one last twirl on a low branch. Hazel's bright reddish-orange tail fluffed out behind her like a feather duster, and her green scarf fluttered in the evening breeze. "Peter," she chirped, "you look like you found a secret." "I think I have," Peter said. "Listen." He held out the acorn. For a moment nothing happened. Hazel leaned in very close. Then the acorn whispered, "Follow the moonbeam." Hazel's eyes grew wide. "Oh," she squeaked, "it talks, it really talks. A whispering acorn. This is the most exciting thing ever." Peter laughed. "I thought you might say that." "Where are we going?" Hazel asked, bouncing in place. "I think," Peter said, looking at the silver ribbon of light, "we're meant to follow the moonbeam." "Well then," Hazel grinned, "what are we waiting for?" Together Peter and Hazel followed the shining moonbeam as it stretched across the meadow. It led them past little yellow buttercups, past a mossy stone, past a row of tiny mushrooms that glowed like little lamps in the dusk. Soon they came to Bramble the hedgehog. He was carefully arranging soft clover leaves into a neat little pile beside his cosy burrow. Bramble looked up with a warm smile. "Good evening, Peter. Good evening, Hazel. You both look rather sparkly." Hazel spun around. "We found a whispering acorn." Bramble blinked. "A whispering acorn?" Peter held out gently. The acorn whispered again, "Follow the moonbeam." Bramble's little face lit up. "Wow," he said thoughtfully, "that sounds both mysterious and extremely lovely. I should very much like to come along." So Bramble tucked a clover leaf behind his ear and joined them. The three friends padded, skipped and shuffled along the moonbeam path. It curved softly through the edge of the woods, where the leaves rustled like little murmurs and sighs. Above them the first stars twinkled awake. Below them the moonbeam danced over roots and pebbles like silver thread. At last they reached the old willow stump near the pond, where Mr. Tumbleweed the tortoise was sitting with his round glasses perched neatly on his nose, reading a very tiny book. He looked up and smiled, his slow, kind smile. "Ah," he said, "my favourite evening wanderers. And what brings you here at such a moonlit hour?" Hazel leaned forward dramatically. "We have found a whispering acorn." Mr. Tumbleweed blinked once, then twice. "Well now," he said, "that is something special." Peter held out the acorn. "Why don't you?" it whispered. "Follow the moonbeam." Mr. Tumbleweed closed his little book. "Then I think," he said, standing carefully, "we should do exactly that." And so the four friends followed the moonbeam together. The path wound round the pond, where fireflies bobbed above the reeds. It slipped beneath the arching fern leaves. It glimmered over stepping stones, each one shining softly in the silver light. The whispering acorn grew warm in Peter's paw. "Do you think it's leading us to a treasure?" Hazel whispered. "Maybe a hidden acorn castle," she added. "Or a moonflower patch," Bramble said. "Or perhaps," said Mr. Tumbleweed gently, "something even better than treasure." Peter smiled. "I think we're about to find out." The moonbeam stretched onward until it reached the oldest oak tree in the whole meadow. The trunk was wide and strong, with roots that curled like great sleepy toes into the earth. Peter looked up in wonder. The moonbeam was shining directly into a hollow in the tree, and inside the hollow something glowed. Peter stepped forward slowly. The whispering acorn in his paw gave one final gentle whisper. "Home." Peter gasped softly. "Home," he said. He carefully lifted the acorn towards the little hollow. The moment it touched the edge of the tree, the hollow filled with warm golden light. Tiny sparks swirled around the trunk like dancing stars. The leaves overhead shimmered, the grass around their feet sparkled, and from inside the hollow, the friends heard the sweetest sound. Plink, 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 like tiny acorns tapping together in a cheerful little song. Hazel clapped her paws. "It's magic!" Bramble's eyes shone. "It's beautiful." Mr. Tumbleweed adjusted his glasses and smiled. "Ah," he said softly, "an acorn cradle." "An acorn cradle?" Peter asked. Mr. Tumbleweed nodded. "Long ago," he said, "the oldest oak trees made special hollows for the very smallest acorns. A safe, warm place where they could rest under moonlight before beginning their grand journey into the world." Hazel looked up at the tree in amazement. "So this little acorn was trying to find its way home?" "I believe so," said Mr. Tumbleweed. Peter gently placed a tiny acorn inside the glowing hollow. At once the golden light softened into a warm glow, like a lantern tucked inside the tree. The acorn nestled among the bed of silver moss and tiny leaves. Then in the softest whisper of all it said, "Thank you." All four friends smiled. "You're very welcome," Peter whispered back. The great oak tree gave a gentle rustle, as if too was saying good night. Then, to everyone's delight, a few tiny acorns peeked out from deeper inside the hollow. One wore a little mossy cap. One was round and shiny. One gave a tiny wiggle. Hazel gasped. "There are more!" "They must have been waiting for their friend," Bramble said. And just then the little acorns began making the sweetest bedtime music. Plink, plink, plink. Soft and calm and twinkly, like a lullaby made of moonlight and leaves. The friends sat beneath the old oak tree and listened. Hazel curled her tail around her paws. Bramble snuggled into the grass. Mr. Tumbleweed closed his eyes behind his round glasses, and Peter Rabbit sat very still, smiling up at the glowing hollow. The moon shone bright above them. The stars twinkled kindly, and the whole meadow seemed to hum with sleepy, peaceful magic. After a little while, Mr. Tumbleweed opened one eye and said very gently, "Well, my dear friends, I think the acorns are singing us all towards bedtime." Hazel yawned. "Very enchanting bedtime," she said. "And hopefully a very restful one," Bramble added. Peter nodded, "but most definitely a very happy one." Before they left, Peter looked up at the little acorn cradle one last time. The tiny acorns were all tucked snugly inside, glowing softly in the hollow like a pocketful of stars. "Sleep well," Peter whispered. The little acorn they had helped gave the tiniest sleepy wiggle. Then the friends made their way home through the moonlit meadow. The silver path seemed to glow softer now. The breeze seemed gentler, and everything around them felt warm and calm, as though the whole woodland was settling down for the night. When Peter reached his burrow, he paused at the door and looked back at the old oak tree in the distance. Far away he could still see the faintest golden glow among the branches. Peter smiled. Sometimes he thought the smallest little things carried the sweetest little secrets. And sometimes all they needed was a kind friend to help them find their way home. Peter gave one last happy sigh, hung his blue jacket by the door, and snuggled into bed. Outside, the moon watched over the meadow. The oak tree glowed softly, and deep in its cosy hollow, the tiny acorns whispered their sleepy little lullaby all through the night. And that brings us to the end of tonight's bedtime story. Thank you so much for joining me for Peter Rabbit and the Whispering Acorn. Hope you enjoyed tonight's woodland adventure with Peter, Hazel, Bramble and Mr. Tumbleweed. If you'd like to hear more magical bedtime stories, please don't forget to like this video, subscribe to Storytime with Vicky, and come back soon for another adventure. Now snuggle in tight, little dreamers. Close your eyes and let the sweetest dreams find you. Good night, and I'll see you next time on Storytime with Vicky.